Talkin Beavers presented by Wilson Motors following Oregon State's 5th consecutive victory, 52-24 on the Palouse, and we're going to talk about it, look at highlights from it, look ahead to the next game, hear from Storm Woods, Mike Riley, run and catch, a lot to come on a jam-packed and exciting show with the Beavers playing some tremendous football to improve to 3-0 in the Pac-12. We are joined, as always, by Angie Machado, the publisher of Beaver Blitz. But this week, a special guest with Tim Euhus on assignment. It is a pleasure to welcome former Jesuit star, walk-on to Oregon State, 4th-round draft pick for the Oakland Raiders when he finished his career with the Beavers after the 2008 season. It is Slade Norris. Slade, great to have you with us tonight.
Good to be here.
You are one of the great Oregon State stories, and we're going to talk about your career and some big moments as we go a little bit later. But it's good to have you here. You see Slade, of course, on #BeaversFootball on Friday night. We all saw on Saturday night. I had the opportunity to call the game. Slade and Angie were watching it somewhere. We're going to find out exactly where and how. But we all saw an amazing fourth quarter in particular for the Beavers and a 52-24 win. But it took some work. As we get the highlights from the game, we can see that the Beavers had some work to do to come back and win this game. Vince Maley on the fade route, Connor Halliday beating Rashad Reynolds there. Rashad would exact revenge later. It was a good coverage. You have to give credit sometimes to the other team. They made a great play. The Beavers come back to tie on that Kevin Cummings touchdown.
Yeah, Kevin did a great job there coming across. And then going on to this play here, what happened?
Mike Leach would not give up. What happened? He said there were two things going on there, and that fake punt led to the Beavers beginning to turn the game into a blowout. Brandon Cook scores on the fly sweep.
What a great
A couple
play
of
by
plays
Rashad.
later, Rashad Reynolds with his second interception.
I mean, Mike, have you ever seen a turn in events like this, like we saw in the fourth quarter?
Well, the only other time I remember was 2007 when it went the other way against the Beavers against UCLA, 28-0 in a fourth quarter. This was much more enjoyable to watch. Brandon Cooks with a touchdown, and the Beavers win it 52-24. Sean Mannion throws for a school record 493 yards. Storm Woods, 2 tough rushing touchdowns. We'll visit with Storm about that later. And there was Brandon Cooks, 11 catches, 137 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the Beavers taking the football away 6 times, Slade, 4 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. The defense, I don't know what you saw unfold in that game, Slade, but early, Connor Halliday was having some success, and even into the third quarter, back-to-back touchdown drives. What happened to turn everything around on the defensive side?
You know, that first quarter, our DBs were playing a bit off the receivers. Halliday was getting the ball out quick, hitting those short routes, the dinks and dunks on the field. We adjusted going on as the game went on. We pressed the receivers. We got them up close to the line, more man coverage, a lot of blitzing. We really did a great job. The only drive I didn't like was one in the second quarter. They got a touchdown. The rest of it, they played great. The third quarter, Halliday made some plays. He made some great throws, and that's going to happen with a team with a passing attack like that. But going into the fourth quarter, we continued to play football. We continued to keep pressing the receivers, keep putting pressure on Halliday, and the picks finally came, and that's when we took advantage.
We will look at some plays a little bit later, and Slade will break them down in more detail for us. But, Angie, what did you see unfold as this crazy game took shape? It was quite a game. You end up winning it with 35 unanswered points.
It was crazy. I mean, you're watching it. It's that back and forth, and I kind of thought that's what we'd see, kind of a back and forth, big air attack. And then all of a sudden, you know, I actually thought Sean Mannion struggled early. He was struggling. There was a few almost near picks. Then he had that pick in the end zone. I thought, uh-oh, here, you know, this could be trouble. But he battled back. He didn't panic. The Beavers didn't panic. And I liked, you know, they started the defense. It looked really soft coverage. And as the game went on, they tightened it, buttoned it all down, and, you know, really put the pressure on Halliday.
You know, in fairness, when we talk about, and Tim Euhus often says, there's other guys out there, too, that are being paid or on scholarship in the NFL. They're being paid. But we saw Washington State make a play and intercept Sean Mannion when, as you say, Angie, Sean was a little bit off. Yeah. But that was a different kind of coverage that the Beavers hadn't seen yet. So Washington State, to its credit, made a play.
They made a play.
But Sean Mannion, while he ended up with the school record 493, saw in the first half Brandon Cooks getting all sorts of attention. So there were other outlets that he was able to read and discover. Richard Mullaney, 5 catches, 122 yards. And in the fourth quarter, when the Beavers really needed some big plays, Caleb Smith stepped up big, actually in the third, with 2 huge catches on the 82-yard drive that got the Beavers even. I had a chance to talk to Caleb about his part in that big comeback.
Well, that play, it's a 4 verts play, and you know, everybody's expected to win, and you know, I got the right look at the right time, and I beat the Mike Backer, and Sean hit me in stride, and it was a good play, big time play in the game.
Caleb, you played as a true last year. I've been told by Kyle DeVan, and maybe you can even say, hey, a year ago, you're just trying to learn everything that the position requires. How do you feel from one year to the next in your knowledge of this offense now?
It's night and day. You know, last year I was like a chicken with my head cut off. I mean, the offseason really helped, you know, working with Kyle and really everybody, really all the tight ends. We all work together. We're all trying to get each other better, all trying to make sure we're right with our assignments. And, you know, that's all I can say is that it's completely different from last year to this year.
If Connor doesn't go, how do you feel that you guys are set at tight end this week at Cal, given how well Tyler Perry, Kellen Clute, and yourself played in this last game?
We feel fine about it. You know, it's never good to have a guy go down, but you know, we feel confident in the guys that are going to step up, and you know, we're expecting the same thing that we would if Connor was going to play.
Is there any one thing, Caleb, that you're looking to do better from game to game, practice to practice, that Kyle and others are hammering home on you about?
You know, staying consistent with my blocking and pass pro. You know, stay patient with guys. You know, don't jump out at them. Or, you know, keep my hands inside. You know, don't. You know, he likes to call it lobster claw people. You know, grab the outside of the shoulder pads, and you know, just making sure I'm right with my blocking.
Thank you, Caleb.
No problem.
Great to see Caleb Smith involved in big plays in the clutch in that third quarter drive that got the Beavers even. Angie, I know that Kyle DeVan and everyone would be proud of Caleb. When I asked him what's the thing he's got to work on, my blocking, he says, but he is working hard on that craft.
He is, you know, and that's, you know, coming out as a recruit. Beaver Nation was so excited. He was a 4-star recruit, had offers from everybody. He had great hands out of high school, but blocking was the one area. So he's working on that and getting better every day, every game, I do believe.
And Slade, good blocking tight ends. You played against guys that would try to get into you. They can make life tough on you.
I hated them, whether they're blocking you straight up or they're kind of offset and they're chipping you. They're so important in that blocking game. And being an ex-defensive end trying to get at the quarterback, they're just a freaking annoyance. So they're very important what Oregon State is trying to do, and we will be hurting if we can't use some of them.
Well, Coach Riley touched on in practice this week that Caleb Smith's a little dinged up. Caleb's very optimistic about playing against the Golden Bears, but it's important that Kellen Clute, Caleb, and Tyler Perry, with his first career catch, were all involved in blocking and in the pass receiving game in Connor Hamlet's absence. The Beavers should have Caleb Smith ready to go Saturday night in Strawberry Canyon. Coming up later on Talkin Beavers, running back Storm Woods joins us on set. But next, Slade Norris breaks down how the Beavers sealed the victory against Washington State. Now it's time for our Taco Bell Top 5. And appropriately enough, 5 is the number of interceptions for Steven Nelson, rendering he and Jimmy Ward the co-leaders in the NCAA. And as we look at the rest of our Taco Bell Top 5, we see a good representation from the Pac-12 Conference. 2 guys that the Beavers just dealt with in Pullman, Dayon Buchanan and DeMonte Horton, each with 4 interceptions. Greg Henderson of Colorado with 4. The Beavers' own Rashad Reynolds, the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week, with 3 picks coming off the 2 against Washington State in Pullman. And Slade, as we get to some of the highlights of the game that you have broken down for us, we start, I think, appropriately enough in talking about interceptions and defense. We'll see one of the picks later, but something that leads to quarterbacks getting a little bit rattled, that's one of the plays you've got for us first.
Definitely. As we look at this next play here, we have Ryan Murphy sitting up top. He does a great job of disguising the coverage. He doesn't come down until right before the ball snaps. He holds his shell. Connor Halliday doesn't see him. The offensive lineman can't get to him because they don't know he's coming. So he does a great job of disguising what he's doing. That really messed up Halliday in that play.
Murphy timed it up perfectly and got great pressure, and so the throw goes awry, and later pressure has something to do with what the Beavers were able to do. That was a 3-3 in the first quarter with that play. Let's get, what else do you have for us now?
Next, we'll go with the screen. Screen has been very important to what we're doing. And you look at this play, there's two linebackers. They're going to blitz in. Washington State really rushes the quarterback well. With a team like that, you want to go through, run the screen passes to be able to offset that. So as they go through, they're going to blitz up. The offensive lineman let the defensive lineman go by, making an easy pass for Storm and a first down there.
Storm Woods will join us later on the set, and Angie, we'll talk to Storm about getting back on the field and so on. But to see that dimension right there, the screen game with Storm back, that play had a chance to really hit big. They did get a first down out of it. But if you're struggling to run the ball, that's a way to get Storm involved, and he's very good at that.
Definitely. I mean, that is the Beavers' run game. I mean, as Tim and I have talked about, too, the past couple of weeks, I think Storm could have gone for further, though, if he hadn't stuttered in there. If he would have just turned and ran, maybe taken a little bit further.
Well, we see Storm later, to his great credit, powered a couple of touchdowns in. We'll talk to Storm a little bit about that later. But as we continue to look at some of the highlights, Slade, I think what you have next is one of those plays we're talking about where pressure, the Beavers defense, disguising things, all of that, they do a great job here.
Definitely. This next play with Rashad Reynolds, he's a veteran player. He does a great job at understanding the defense. We have two deep safeties there. They're going to cover the deep part. Middle linebacker's going to bail out, basic cover two. Rashad does a great job at sinking into the coverage. Doesn't have anybody sitting in his zone, so he knows that he can go back and help the safety with that throw. Connor Halliday does not see that coming, throws the ball anyway. It's a great interception for Rashad.
We get another look at it from this angle. Rashad with 2 picks. The Beavers, Angie, had 3 picks and 5 passes thrown by Halliday. That's a pretty good run right there.
Oh, it was and then they led to touchdowns. So it was a great run.
An unbelievable fourth quarter. And we see heading down the stretch in one of the last touchdown drives, Slade, something that, while it's not a spectacular play, it shows what Sean Mannion is doing so well and taking what's available.
Not only Sean, but how much Brandon Cooks also influences the game. And this next play, we'll look over and we'll see Cummings sitting out there in the slot. We have 2 safeties back, and they're going to bail before the snap. Both Cummings and Sean are both going to see that. So he'll know if Cummings can get inside this linebacker, it'll be easy catch for a first down. The safety's bailed. Cummings makes a great move inside. Easy pitch and catch. First down right there. And that's all able to happen because Brandon Cooks has the threat of going deep, so the safeties have to sit up top and make sure they cover that.
And the Beavers ended up finishing that drive to go ahead 45-24. And that was also a very nice catch. The ball slightly behind, thrown by Sean Mannion. But all of those things show, I think, what defenses are up against Mike Riley's offense. And it's interesting to me, Angie, that we're talking about a pro-style offense that's almost a dinosaur in the college game, but it's pretty productive right now.
Well, and it's a pro-style game that has really, Coach Riley preaches year in, year out about a balanced attack. We're not seeing a balanced attack right now. It is all air, but you have so many weapons with Brandon Cooks, Mullaney, Cummings, the tight ends, and then Storm. There's not enough guys to cover all those threats.
And Slade, in terms of, we see the prolific passing game, 493 yards, a school record. The run game is showing some signs. Back-to-back games, over 100 yards. You're still not quite in the classic sense with Jacquiz in the inside zone and outside zone runs, but there was some productivity with the fly sweeps and other ways to run the football against Washington State.
Definitely. You know, in the first quarter, we saw some runs up the middle, get some yardage. That looked great. We can build on that. But also, when you said with the fly sweep, the more success that has, the more success it'll create for our run game. Because I know playing a defensive end, when you see a guy going across your face, getting the ball, all of a sudden you start thinking about that, and they're going to get right up the middle for a big gain. So that's really going to help us out as the season goes on.
The Beavers heading to Strawberry Canyon, hoping to get the run game ignited, but in the meantime, Sean Mannion is throwing it pretty well. Coming up later on Talkin Beavers, we'll have the next installment of Run and Catch with Woods and Cooks. But coming up next, we hear from Coach Riley on how he defines his coaching philosophy. It's time now to find out who gets our Wilson Motors game balls. Talkin Beavers presented by Wilson Motors. Slade, are you ready for your first ever presentation of a game ball? I want to see if you're ready. Are you ready? You're ready.
You know, I was worried about that because I am a defensive player. I'm no Tim Euhus. But I'll talk about a defensive player that had some sure hands. Rashad Reynolds. He had 6 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. When you give your offense the ball 4 different times in one game as a single player, that's amazing. So he gets my game ball this week.
That's a good pick. And the thing I liked too, Slade, was Rashad recovered to make some of those big plays. We saw earlier Vince Maley made a nice catch for a touchdown against very good coverage. So Rashad was able to recover, keep his poise, come back and make great plays. Nice catch, putting those old tight end skills to work. Angie, what about you? Who gets your Wilson Motors game ball?
My Wilson Motors game ball is going to Sean Mannion. I haven't given one. I know. What did he do? You know, my biggest thing with Sean was he threw that interception, and last year might have panicked. He didn't. He fought back and had a couple struggles early on, and then came back and had a great fourth quarter.
Well, he had a great game in the midst of an unbelievable season. 25 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He did recover quickly from the one. The defense gave him the ball right back, and he finished that drive. He did have a pretty good game.
Yeah,
493 yards, a school record, and 4 touchdowns. But in the key drive of the game, with the Beavers down 24-17, Sean Mannion, who was very resourceful in finding a lot of different receivers, in that third quarter drive hit Caleb Smith twice. So that's to Mannion's credit, but also Caleb Smith, big-time stage and atmosphere. Caleb Smith gets my Wilson Motors game ball for this week. Nice job, Caleb. Caleb Smith, a 4-star recruit. Now, the Beavers don't live necessarily on 4 and 5 stars. They do get them, and there may be more to come. We'll talk to Angie a little bit about that as we go tonight on Talkin Beavers. But Coach Riley, in this next segment with our own Tim Euhus, who's not here tonight but on assignment, Tim sat down with Coach Riley recently to talk to the dean of coaches in the Pac-12 just about his overall philosophy, coaching football, in recruiting. Let's take a look.
New coach meets you. Conference wants to pick your brain a little bit. How do you define your philosophy?
Oh, boy. I think it goes back to my first head coaching job in Winnipeg, and I didn't really want to be a head coach when I was first offered it. I was coaching the defense. I was happy with that. I'd seen my dad go through a ton of different stuff being a head coach. I was asked questions like you just asked about what is your philosophy, and I didn't know what to say. But I do now, because what I did then is I started thinking about that, and I really looked at it from your eyes as a player. I said, what do I want from that guy right there? And I think they want 2 things. I think they want to be coached. They love the game. They love what they do. They want to get better at it, and they want to be on a winning team, so they want to be coached. And the other thing is they want to be treated right. So philosophically, that's the way we've always tried to approach it. We want to coach kids. We want to help them get better. We want a winning team, and we want to treat people right. And that is the foundation of everything that we do. And that really helps me when I look around hiring people. I want people that are experts at what they do, whether they're coaching the linebackers or cooking the hamburger. They got to be great at it. And we're fortunate. We're good in both of those areas. But they also have to be good people that treat people right.
Coach Riley has always remained committed to a philosophy and a vision for football, and it's been very successful. And Angie, on the recruiting trail, which I alluded to, the Beavers have gotten a commitment recently.
Yeah, they picked up a commitment last Wednesday night, actually. We're Talking Beavers was on, from Drew Clarkson, a 2-star offensive lineman. He's a guard center out of Camas, Washington. Had offers, however, from Cal, Washington State, among others.
And a pretty amazing story.
A great story, and it really goes with Coach Riley's whole, looking for the people. And, Drew's battled, just this last spring, battled testicular cancer. He's a fighter. He was with his team even through all the chemo and everything he's gone through, and just felt it was a good fit. Oregon State was a good fit for him.
Well, we look forward to seeing him in an Oregon State uniform out of Camas, a paper maker with 2 stars. Slade, you came into this program as a walk-on, so essentially no stars, and you played your way into a 4th-round draft pick out of Oregon State. Tell me a little bit about the development of players in this program.
Coach Riley does a great job of not just recruiting an athlete, but recruiting a whole individual, recruiting a family. He takes everything into consideration. So when he finds these kids, he knows that they're going to come in, they're going to bring their lunchbox every day, they'll be in the weight room, they'll be in the meetings, and it's that kind of player that he recruits. Not to mention the kind of coaching staff that he has that develops these players once they're here. I knew coming in I was a safety. I moved on to linebacker after I gained some weight. I moved on to D-end after that, and I finally found my role. I trusted the system, and I trusted Coach Riley, and I just kept working hard, and that's what these kids do.
Worked hard to the point, 9 sacks his junior year, 9 more his senior year, and played his way into a 4th-round pick with the Oakland Raiders. Coming up later, we break down the California Golden Bears. But next, running back Storm Woods joins us on set. So far, we've looked back at that amazing 4th quarter and the Beavers' big win on the Palouse. We've heard from Caleb Smith, Mike Riley, and we've touched a little bit on Coach Riley's recruiting philosophy. Still to come a little bit more on the California Golden Bears, the team awaiting Oregon State in Strawberry Canyon this weekend. But in that feature on Mike Riley and his recruiting philosophy, the type of young men that he seeks to bring into Oregon State, we are blessed to have with us a great example of what Oregon State football is all about as we welcome one of the great young men in Oregon State football history, Storm Woods, alongside of Slade Norris. And in Slade and Storm, 2 great young men with tremendous football names. Storm, it's great to have you with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
And how great was it to get back on the field after that 3-week hiatus? We'll talk about how scary that all was for you, your family, and all of us. But how did it feel to be back on the field in Pullman?
It felt amazing. You know, words can't really explain. But the best part was bringing home the win back to Corvallis. That was the best part of it.
And you had a big part of it, too, with those 2 touchdowns, powerful runs. Tell us a little bit, Storm, just before we get to some other matters. People have talked about the run game and trying to get it going. Maybe you're still not in the productive type of phase you want to be in, but to be able to run it in from down there, tell us about those plays.
They're pretty, it's pretty important. You know, in the red zone, you know, field goals are good, but touchdowns are better. So we definitely want to get touchdowns down there. And they were regular run plays, but, you know, in the goal line, that's when you have to man up. You know, rather than receiving a blow, I would like to deliver it. So I didn't want to get hit, and I knew we needed the point, so I just ran behind my great O-line and got in there.
On that second one, you had to break a tackle to get in, and that was a power run. I mean, tell us a little bit about just when you're down there, what effort's all about there.
Effort's everything, and actually earlier in the game, that safety came off the edge and hit me pretty hard and had some words for me. So I seen him in the hole, and I just knew I had to. He couldn't give me 2 times in a row. I had to make it 1 for 1.
Angie, when Storm was being recruited, and I don't know if we did a poll, which name would win, Storm or Slade is one of the best Oregon State names ever. They're both here on set. But you remember when Storm was being recruited, and I'm not sure there's any better fit than this young man for a name and the type of young man that he is.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about recruiting a lot on this show, and the one thing that I can say, following recruiting now for 7 years, Oregon State has constantly upped the caliber of athlete they're bringing in and the type of guys they're bringing in. I even told Coach Riley that this fall at fall camp, just what great young men you guys are. Great people. I mean, guys that my little kids totally look up to, and I'm fine with it.
What is that, Storm, for you? How important is that, what Angie just touched on, when you make a commitment to come to Oregon State, the family atmosphere that Coach Riley talks about, Slade has touched on, but what it means to you and Brandon and the rest of the guys to be role models to young people?
Honestly, I feel like that's bigger than the game of football because, you know, the young people are our future. And I remember being in those shoes, looking up to college guys, you know, looking up to Jaquiz Rogers, James Rogers, and just having them, you know, off the field, just acting like regular guys, becoming my friends, my mentors. So I just try to do what they did for me and give back.
Slade, you were telling us earlier in Storm, Slade somehow managed to get through his entire football life without a concussion. All of us were frightened for you about what happened in Salt Lake City. You were there picking up a late rush to allow Sean Mannion to make a throw to Richard Mullaney. You laid out to get to that blitzer. Take us through, if you would, a little bit, Storm. You know, what happened on that play, since we're able to talk about it now, I'm grateful that we can. From that moment, what you kind of remember, when you kind of lost your sense, your consciousness, when you came to, all of that.
So pre-snap read, you can see that it's going to be a weak dog. So it's a weak side protection. So I have the will linebacker. Well, our line handled it well, so I'm about to get out on my passing route, and I see a corner trigger from the strong side. And, you know, nobody's over there protecting me. I had a clean shot on Sean. So I just dove out there. Coach Brass teaches the cut block perfectly, you know, with our shoulder, and it was in the heat of the moment, and I did hit it with my head. So his knee hit my head, and then from that point on, I don't remember anything until I got up and my grandma was holding my hand on the stretcher, and that's what I remember.
You were able to give a thumbs up, and that was to the relief of everyone. But your mom was a little frightened during that time. What helped her to get through all of that?
Before I came here, my mom knows the game of football. You know, it's physical, and some injuries like that do happen. And she always just told me, make a promise to me that if you're seriously hurt, you give me a thumbs up so I know you're okay. So as soon as I came to consciousness, I threw the thumbs up just to let her know your baby boy's fine.
Good for you. That was a relief to us all. My favorite moment this season, there's been many great ones, but you walking onto that plane in Salt Lake City and all of your teammates clapping, what did that mean to you to be able to leave that hospital in Salt Lake City and fly back after that great win?
It meant the world to me. You know, the biggest thing that people don't realize is that Dr. Ackerman was calling to see if they were going to leave, and DVD made a statement, no soldier left behind. And, you know, that just it almost brought tears to my eyes, man. You know, and coming on the plane, all my brothers were clapping and hugging me. The coaches, it warms my heart.
Now, you had issues physically, but were you in the hospital? When did you know that Cookie caught the ball in the back of the end zone, the Beavers win 51-48? Were you following all of that in the hospital, or what?
I couldn't watch TV, unfortunately, but as soon as I got there, you know, I remembered almost everything, and I was just bugging Dr. Ackerman, like, what's the score? What's the score? What's Brandon doing? What's Sean doing? And he told me they won, and I tried to jump up, but I was still strapped down to the board, so they told me to stay still.
I got to ask real fast with the concussion, do you feel like the NFL and the NCAA have taken enough rule changes to make the game safe? Do you like these rule changes, or do you think they need to do more or less? What's your opinion on that?
I do like the rule changes as far as the targeting with the head-to-head collisions, because concussions, they do wear and tear on you, and I think they affect you as you get older. So with all the older guys, you know, having problems, I do appreciate what the NFL is doing with the concussions.
And in terms of your own readiness to play, it had been 3 weeks since that frightening moment, and you hadn't taken a hit. We've already asked how it felt, but are you completely good? I mean, you got the time was enough to be ready to get back on the field?
Yes, it was more than enough time, I feel like. But and my roommate, Brandon Cooks, you know, he come home, quiz me, you know, asked me if I'm ready. He was really a big factor in me coming back as strong as I came back, because, I mean, he works his butt off, and he demands I do too. So just being at home, we would watch film together, go through plays. He'd test me on everything, and I just knew I would be ready.
Make sure you knew your name.
How about the season Cooks is having, by the way? What are your thoughts about what Brandon is doing this year?
I knew it was going to happen. Just seeing him, how each year he's developed. In this offseason, it was the numbers he were putting up, I've never seen it. You know, the jumps he was making, I've never seen it. And another thing is he plays through God. God is huge with Brandon, and just putting those two together, the God and how hard he's worked, I knew he was going to have a great season. I'm not surprised by anything he's doing.
And finally, Storm, for you and the running game, there's 7 games left for you guys, the 6 in the regular season, and wherever you go after that. You feel like the running game is going to ramp up as you head down the stretch, that you'll be a big part of that?
Yes, sir, I do. But at the same time, I'm aware that right now our offense is doing great because of our line and Sean Mannion and our receivers who are led by Brandon Cook. So with that being said, I'm not an individual guy. You know, right. I hope the run game flourishes, and I hope it does great. But if not, I have to find more ways to get incorporated in the passing game and be a threat in the passing game. So therefore, our offense will continue to be good.
Well, we already saw earlier, Slade, Slade, how big of a part, and that play you broke down shows on that screen game. This guy's pretty good at it, isn't he?
He definitely is. Having the guy like this with hands, and you can rely on him even when it goes into blocking and such. A utility back, he can do everything, and the Beavers are so lucky to have him.
Storm, we are blessed to have you with us. Great to see you back on the field, and look forward to your game in Berkeley this weekend. Thanks for joining us here on Talkin Beavers.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Later on Talkin Beavers, we sit down with Woods and Cooks in our feature entitled Run and Catch. But next, we look ahead to the Beavers' upcoming opponent down in Strawberry Canyon, the California Golden Bears. We are Talkin Beavers, Slade Norris, Angie Machado, and yours truly. And it's time now for our standard TV and appliance rewind, where we look back to one of the more remarkable games in this series, and frankly in Oregon State history, with the Beavers taking down the #2 team in the country in Strawberry Canyon, and really a provisional #1 for about 30 minutes. In fact, the Golden Bear fans were chanting, "We're #1, we're #1," because earlier in the day, Kentucky had upset #1 LSU. So, indeed, a provisional #1 that the Beavers defeated 31-28. And Slade, you were part of this amazing game, had a big part of it. A goal line stand. You were more of a third down pass rush specialist, so you weren't on the field for that, but you watched guys man up on 4 straight downs. What do you remember about that whole sequence?
You know, that play, that whole series really changed that game. I mean, I think, if anything, defensive plays can really inspire like the entire team. You get a big hit, a goal line stand, that's a game changer. So watching that from the sidelines, I mean, our entire team just exploded. And at that point, the offense grabbed the ball and they knew, hey, we're winning this game. The defense just saved our butts. Let's go.
And Cal hasn't been the same since that moment.
I agree with you, Angie. I don't think they have. I mean, it's been well documented. There's been a head coaching change, Sonny Dykes in his first year, but they were this close to being #1, and you guys denied them that. And one of the plays that made it happen, you got after a guy that is from your neck of the woods, Kevin Riley out of Beaverton. You pressured him, created an opportunity for Vic Butler. Tell us about that play.
That play is always one of my favorite plays I was ever involved in at Oregon State, because Vic and I are so close, and with my hit, it gave Vic a little chance to show off with his running skills. But yeah, I came off the edge and I hit the ex-Beaverton quarterback. I went to Jesuit, big rivalry. Right. Hit him right in the back. The ball popped loose. Vic caught it and showed some moves. Took it back about 30 yards, put us in great position to score. It was an awesome play.
You know, Slade, and the other thing too, I remember the end, as Angie talks about, they're not quite the same since the moment where Kevin Riley, very talented kid, but in the end slid down. Joey LaRocque helped get him down. What do you remember as those seconds ticked off and you knew you'd pulled off the upset?
I think I was on TV next to Coach Riley running off after we won, but, you know, we're watching those seconds and all of a sudden realizing that they can't get it back. You know, we got this. Yeah. And as that point happens, like I said earlier, the whole sideline exploded. I mean, it was a great win for us.
Coach Tedford exploded too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think that clipboard's ever been the same either. That was a great win in a series of very impressive wins for the Beavers in Strawberry Canyon. To get another one, though, the Beavers are going to have to be as focused as they've been in those previous trips. We talked to Coach Riley about the challenge ahead with this year's California Golden Bear team.
Cal is a very talented offensive football team. They have an abundance of good receivers, talented receivers. They have a talented young quarterback, very good running backs, lots of speed. Defensively, their 4-3 defense. I thought overall their team played a very good game against, as we know, a very, very good UCLA team. You see all different kinds of spread. These guys will have a different version of what, you know, they do compared to what Washington State did. I think that you have to prepare for this team specifically. You have to have some curveballs for them that you didn't use last week, and you know that you can't assume anything.
Well, you can see that the Beavers have won 5 of the last 6, but I tend to dismiss the last one because that was at AT&T Park in San Francisco, 23-6. The Golden Bears win that football game. The other 5, Strawberry Canyon Memorial Stadium, And these games are vivid. I mean, I remember T.J. Hushmanzada making plays in the 2000 game with Jonathan Smith. In 2003, Steven Jackson rumbling for 227 yards. In 2005, Evanson Bernard, a great game. The Beavers hang on to win 30-27. We've already talked about the unbelievable win in 2007. In 2009, the Beavers dominate 31-14. All of those games at Memorial Stadium. Now, we haven't seen the refurbished, beautiful new Memorial Stadium, so this will be the Beavers' first trip there. And Angie, they're going up against a California team that, while struggling, played a pretty good defensive game, maybe their best defensive game against UCLA.
Yeah, they really stopped UCLA's rush game. I mean, it stopped it in its tracks. So Oregon State, that might not affect Oregon State too much because Oregon State can just keep up with that passing game, the little screens. But it's not the game that Oregon State's going to get the run game going.
Slade, it's in terms of Jared Goff and that bear raid attack of Sonny Dykes. He coaches it up well. In a sense, they got a taste of it against Connor Halliday. But Cal goes quicker. And Jared Goff threw for over 500 yards against the Cougars. So when you're playing an up-tempo, pass-oriented team, what are the challenges for the defense?
You really got to communicate quickly throughout the defense. I mean, a lot of hand signals. Everybody has to be on the same page for that up-tempo offense. The best thing, though, they got a freshman quarterback. He's doing well, but they can be flustered. Get some pressure on him, put him on the ground a few times, and really get in his head and interrupt that.
And Jared Goff, 504 yards to be specific against Washington State. But Angie, you say you're not so sure that this is the game where the Beavers can get the run game going based on what you saw them do to UCLA.
But yeah, I don't know if this is the game that they break out and maybe do all the draw plays and do that. But I do see ways that Oregon State can exploit them downfield. I mean, the Cougars did very well against them throwing the ball.
You know, and Slade, the thing, too, and she's right, 521 yards Connor Halliday threw for against the Cal defense. What's lost sometimes when we get preoccupied, as well we should, with Heismanian and Brandon Cooks, the offensive line may be struggling a bit in the run game, but boy, they're sure giving Sean time to throw.
They are. Between them working well as a unit, no matter who is in there, this patchwork team doing a great job, to Mannion knowing his reads and getting the ball out quickly. It's a matchup that I don't see can be beaten anytime soon, because even if you get pressure on him, if you bring blitzes, he's going to beat you with his great read. So he's hot right now.
Cal does just have a lot of talent. You know, going back to the recruiting, there are so many guys on that roster that was head-to-head battles with Oregon State that chose to go to Cal. I mean, I could go down the list.
Great time for payback.
Payback right there.
No question about it. And when we come back on Talkin Beavers, we'll talk about whether payback can be delivered by the Beavers, the one thing they have to do to get it done. Every Friday night, it's #Beavers Football, and we're looking forward again to a big show this Friday previewing the Beavers game at Cal. Saturday morning, it's game day at 9 a.m. and then post-game live at 10:30, talking about all the action from all the teams in the Pac-12 in the Northwest. We have had a great time watching Brandon Cooks and Storm Woods interact in the run and catch feature. It was a real delight to have Storm on the show this week. Brandon was on last week. This week's feature on run and catch talks about the hardest part of their day and season. Let's take a look.
Toughest thing about your day?
Probably have to say getting through the whole day, as opposed, not no more, but the fall camp days, you know, with the doubles and the film. You know, you're tired, but at the same time, you're just driven because you know that all that hard work is going to someday pay off in the game. And you're being watched. You have to be a leader out there. So my toughest day would probably be getting through the 2 days.
Mine has to be going to sleep. I can never go to sleep. One, I just sometimes can't sleep at night, and two, you're always being loud, like, or if he's on FaceTime, or he always has to do something, and then he'll just call me to come downstairs for nothing. I'm like, what do you want, Storm? And I just want to see you. So my toughest part of my day is being able to go to sleep at night just because of you.
So Cook saying that Storm Woods' singing can be a little bit irksome, and I imagine, Slade, that he's channeling a little bit of Luke Bryan, his favorite singer, and you've hung out with Luke Bryan.
He's a great guy, you know. He can't flex the golden pipes like me, but what can I say? He's decent.
Angie, can you abide country music? Do you have any taste for it at all?
It's okay. It's okay. I can listen to it.
Just okay. Come on.
I'm a Jack Johnson girl.
You've got a beautiful day outside. It's all sunny. You got to throw in some country.
Well, we really appreciate the personalities and the talents of Storm Woods and Brandon Cooks. Indeed, Storm does love his country music. We love the fact that they've been with us all season long. We'll have another feature again of Run and Catch next week. Coming up next on Talkin Beavers, we give you our one thing that the Beavers must do to defeat California. As always, we talk about the one thing that the Beavers must do to come away with a win. And Angie, I'm going to start with you. 5 straight wins in different ways of winning football games. What's the one thing, in your opinion, the Beavers have to do to make it 6 straight?
The one thing. One.
Yes.
Focus. They need to focus. It's hard, I think, for the Beavers when they get down to the California games, whether it be that Los Angeles or Bay Area, because so many of the guys are from those areas. Their families come and watch. So they have the outside distraction of family and friends. So focus on the game, and I honestly think they shouldn't have a big problem with Cal.
Now, the Beavers have had great success on the road this year, Slade. That has served them well. They already have some big road wins under their belt. 3 of them, in fact. What about you for the one thing the Beavers have to do to keep this roll going at Memorial Stadium?
I'm going to go on to the defensive side, of course. This is an up-tempo offense, and we need to be able to combat that. And you do that, like I said earlier, with communication, getting the play call in early, getting it communicated all over the place. You can't be sitting there talking to the guy behind you when the ball is snapped. If we have that, we're going to get a bunch of first downs all over the place. If they can all be on the same page, playing like they did last week, just keep pushing and keep pushing, playing good football, we'll be fine.
Yeah, a little bit of a combination of both. Angie, I agree with you. The focus is key for the Beavers. If they stay focused, locked in, as they've shown in their 3 road wins, their ability to do that, they're going to win the football game. But on defense, they need to weather what Rod Perry calls these days in college football. You've got to weather the storm. And, you know, we saw Connor Halliday make plays early and even in the second half, but the Beavers hung in, stayed with their game plan, and there were plays to be made against Halliday and the Cougs on the Palouse. Just as I believe Jared Goff in that high-octane offense, the bear raid of Sonny Dykes, Cal will make plays, but the Beavers just need to stay patient, stay with their game plan, and good things will happen for the Beavers on defense. I trust that the offense with Mannion and Cooks will move the ball and score points again. Just weather the storm, and the Beavers are going to come away with a 6th straight victory on this amazing 2013 season. Next week, we'll be talking about it right here. The Beavers and Cal, and a wrap-up of that, as well as looking ahead to homecoming when Stanford comes to Reser Stadium. Again, we will be back next week right here at Flat Tail Brewing for another edition of Talkin Beavers. Look forward to seeing you then. So long, everybody.